Regular Show is an animated series that started airing in 2010. Back then, Cartoon Network was in its golden age, alongside legendary shows like Adventure Time and The Amazing World of Gumball. I can confidently say that Regular Show is one of the most successful animated series I've ever watched. It aired for 8 seasons and concluded in 2016. In this video, I will tell you the story of Regular Show from beginning to end in full detail. Now, let's get into our video. 14 billion years ago, during a great fight between Megacronus and Melamcronus, a massive explosion reset everything, including all multiverses. Megacronus is Pops, and Melamcronus is Anti-Pops. They are brothers, and they fight this way every 14 billion years. However, it always ends in a draw. 500 years ago, we see Skip's life. Before he was known as Skips, he was called Vossi and was not immortal. He was a high school student attending school with magical characters. There, he fell in love with a girl named Mona. After hanging out together, they went to a prom where a villain named Cork Bin fought with Skips. Skip's friends gave him the Fists of Justice, and during the fight, Mona died. Skips punched Clockbrain into space. Years later, these babies called Skips to them and told him that Clockbrain would return to Earth, giving him immortality. They also wanted him to have a new name. Skips chose the name Skips because he always skipped with Mona. 100 years ago, the founder of the park, Mr. Mellert, found a big-headed baby from a meteor that came from space while collecting meteors. Mr. Mellert named this baby Pops because he looked old. Later, Mr. Mellert noticed the parchment he had and saw that it contained the story of the Cronus brothers. Despite this, Mr. Mellert raised him like a normal child. Later, while Pops was looking through a telescope, he noticed a pink planet and met his home planet, Lolly Land, for the first time. 20 years ago, we see Muscle Man's story. Before he was muscular, his father took him to gyms. One day, his father got trapped under a weight, and Muscle Man helped him, developing his muscles this way. After this event, he participated in bodybuilding competitions, but later realized he didn't enjoy it and returned to his favorite hobby, eating. He started participating in eating contests and lost all his muscles. The story of how Muscle Man met his best friend, High Five Ghost, goes back to high school. Muscle Man was the coolest kid in school before High Five Ghost arrived, but after he came, everyone started talking about him. So Muscle Man got jealous and started bullying him. One day they decided to race cars out of jealousy, but the race didn't go as planned. Muscle Man's steering wheel broke off and they lost control. They both jumped out of the car before it crashed into a big rock. High Five Ghost saved Muscle Man before he fell into a pit, and they became best friends this way. Benson had a difficult childhood filled with yelling and fighting. His father taught him how to be angry. He also had relationship problems when he grew up and would eat spicy wings to cope. He often did stupid things and ruined his relationships, feeling regretful about it. Benson was also a world champion in table hockey and a drummer. He used to give concerts but was fired and replaced by a machine. Later, he was humiliated on a game show and his hair fell out. After that, he became the park manager and enjoyed his job. Mordecai and Rigby have been together since they were very young. Rigby constantly complained about his family because he was short, while his brother was taller. Because of this, he became estranged from his family and spent all his time with Mordecai. They went to all schools together and did everything together. However, they needed to go to college, But Rigby's grades weren't good enough. Both applied to the same university, but Rigby was not accepted. When Mordecai saw his application had been accepted, he was very anxious because Mordecai was his only friend in life. To avoid being separated, he changed the letter to make it look like Mordecai was not accepted. When Mordecai came home and saw this, he was very upset, but Rigby's plan worked. They could now be together forever. From that day on, they started looking for jobs because they were unemployed. After failing at most jobs, they found a job at the park and went there for an interview. This is how Mordecai and Rigby started working at the park, beginning their adventures. In the present, we see Mordecai and Rigby's adventures and love stories. In one episode, they find an item called the Power that grants any wish they make. We see Mordecai and Margaret's relationship. Mordecai likes her, but can't tell her for dozens of episodes. Later, very interesting events happen. For instance, Rigby loses an arm wrestling match to Skips and dies, but Skips wins an arm wrestling match with death, bringing Rigby back to life. Later, Mordecai and Rigby encounter some baby ducks. A man appears wanting to steal them, but the baby ducks combine into a giant duck and destroy him. In another episode, they go to an amusement center to get a dice keychain for Pop's birthday. However, the robot animals come to life and steal their tokens, claiming there are real diamonds inside them. At the end of the episode, they are blown up by the FBI. In another episode, Mordecai and Rigby try out a new arcade game at the cafe and break the world record. The previous record holder, Gary Bobby Ferguson, comes to challenge them. In the end, Mordecai and Rigby defeat and explode him. Many more chaotic and different events happen. Mordecai progresses his relationship with Margaret. In one episode, Mordecai goes to the cafe where Margaret works, but sees someone proposing to her and leaves, falling into depression. He can't even leave his room. Rigby tries to find him a girlfriend and sets up a date through the internet. Many girls come, but Mordecai shows no interest. Then a girl named CJ comes, and they get along very well. Mordecai invites her to the movies, pulling him out of his depression and returning him to normal. Later, he gathers the courage to go back to Margaret's cafe, only to find out that the person proposing was her cousin. Mordecai feels relieved when he hears this, and Margaret asks him to go to the movies. But while this is happening, CJ listens behind them. She gets angry, destroys everything, and leaves. In another episode, a major event occurs. A man blows up the park completely. Mordecai and Rigby use a time machine to escape at the last moment. During this time, a new worker arrives at the park. His name is Thomas, and he witnesses everything. Mordecai and Rigby go back in time to try to stop this event and succeed, though with great difficulty. Meanwhile, they discover that Thomas is a Russian spy, but no one believes them because Thomas always skips work and lies. But he really is a Russian spy. After Mordecai and Rigby save the park, all the characters get into a big fight. Mordecai and Rigby are there too, but Thomas saves them from the fight and ensures they save the park completely. In the last season, the park moves to space, and Pops fights Anti-Pops to save the world. Pops hugs his brother and sacrifices himself with him to the universe. This saves the world, but Pops is no more. After Pop's death, Mordecai and Rigby go their separate ways. Mordecai turns to drawing and becomes an artist. Rigby marries Eileen. Everyone has a life of their own and moves away from the park's influence. They reunite 25 years later. This way, I tried to tell you the legendary story of regular show briefly. If this effort gets 3,000 likes on the video, I'll be happy. Who is your favorite regular show character? Write in the comments. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.